Hello, good day everyone. Hello there. I am ADSEL John V. Lora. You can also call me John Cell. This is my report for our ED 229 Educational Management Theory and Practice. Again, hello, good day. I am John Cell, and today I'll be sharing with you my beautiful ideas about my report. So you can add me on Facebook at Gentle Velasco Laura to know more about me. So much more for the intro. Let us start my report. I'll be reporting evaluating or evaluation. We always hear this word evaluation because we are in the teaching department. And evaluation is very important, not just for us, but also for our learners and the whole educational curriculum. Let's know more about evaluation. Okay, first let's understand what is evaluation. Evaluation in education setting is the process whereby we seek evidence that the learning experiences we have designed for students are effective. Evaluation is a very important part of the teaching and learning process. As what I have said, it's very important for us teachers and for our learners because in evaluation we will know if our learners are learning our lessons every day or the lessons that we have designed for them. And it says that it's very important for the teaching and learning process. So why is it important? Let's try to know more. Okay, why is evaluation important? It is important because it provides feedback for a teacher that how much students understood. It also suggests a teacher for necessary changes that need to be brought in the current education system. Again, it's important because it will measure if your students understand what you are teaching. So also you can do evaluation during, after, or even before you start the class. Again, that is what we call evaluation for us to know if we are understood by our students. Okay, we will also know what are their weaknesses and what are the things that are good at if we try to evaluate them. So that's how important evaluation is. It's like our mirror. What is the result of our evaluation is what we are as teachers. So let's learn more. It's important, yes, it is. Now, let us know the evaluation in the learning process. What is it? Evaluation plays an enormous role in the learning process. It helps teachers and the learners to improve teaching and learning. So we we are very beneficial of evaluation as teachers, and also same with the learners. Evaluation is a continuous process and a periodic exercise. So continuous process, it keeps on doing, it never stops. So let us learn about education on the learning process. This one is a simple representation explaining the role of evaluation in the learning process. We have in the diagram below, here there is a big circle. Inside that circle are the objectives, the learning outcomes that we prepare for our learners through our lesson plans. We do that in our lesson plans. every day, if not daily lesson plans, weekly lesson plans. We always have our objectives. We also have the learner experiences. What are the strategies? What activities or what approach are we using for our teaching and learning process? Also, we have the learner appraisal, which is the assessment that we do to our learners. All of these three, the relationship of the three is very important for the evaluation process. Evaluation encompasses all. It evaluates objectives, it also evaluates learners' experiences, and it evaluates the assessments. Assessments are already evaluations, but we also evaluate evaluations. So that's how big or how important evaluation is. So this is a representation of evaluation. Okay. And then the question we have here, mostly what we ask to ourselves or to others, is that when do we evaluate? What is the exact time for evaluation? Should we do it before the teaching learning process, during, or after? Is there really a good time or an exact time or the best time for evaluation? Okay, so here it is said that evaluation is an ongoing process. So it keeps on going, it never stops. It is an ongoing process that should be incorporated into the whole life cycle of any given activity, like the teaching and learning activity or teaching and learning process, or the planning of your lesson plans, of or how you deliver your plan, or even after the activity itself. So it just means it happens anytime. Evaluation can happen at the start, it can happen at the middle or during the activity, and it also happens at the end. So it's like evaluation is omnipotent, it is present anywhere in the teaching and learning process. So that's why it is really important. So let us learn the times. What are the times that we can evaluate? Okay, first, there are some specific points or times throughout the life cycle of an activity or a teaching and learning process where it is important to consider evaluation. So, what points should we put evaluation in? First is that we can do that before the activity, or what we call the pre-activity. We say pre, it happens before the start of any activity. So it's pre-activity. This is the planning stages of evaluation. So for example, we are starting doing our lesson plan. We also evaluate our lesson plan. That's very important. Okay, it's the planning stage of evaluation where aims and objectives are agreed upon, an evaluation plan developed. Of course, we should be critical in making objectives or in making our learning outcomes. So we need evaluation. Okay, the start of any teaching and learning process is the arm of the teacher is the lesson plan. We In planning, we also need evaluation. Okay, so that's before the start of any activity. Next is that it can happen during or ongoing. So it can happen in the middle of any activity. So that's evaluation. This could be in the form of a mid activity. So at the middle of your lesson, it could happen. It could be in a reflection group. enabling adaptation of the activity according to the participants' needs and progress against the aims and objectives. So maybe it could happen through groups. They could have evaluation within group of students. That could happen too. Reflection through reflection of group. They could have evaluation too. Those examples are found in or during the activity. So that's what we call the ongoing activity, and a lot more that we can do as teachers, a lot more evaluation that we can do during the teaching and learning process or the teaching time. We can do it directly, tell or evaluate our students directly while you are doing your lessons. So we do that. We also have evaluation at the end of the activity. So in any lesson we have or teaching we have in the classroom, we always have quizzes or tests after. So that will happen at the end of the activity. That is also a kind of evaluation. This can be used to measure the students' perceptions about the activity or the learning that they get from your teaching once it is already finished. So it could be in a way of quizzes, tests, or any other learning outcome measurements. So usually we do quizzes at the end of every lesson every day. So it could happen at the end. And there is one more last point throughout the teaching process. It is the follow up evaluation. So this could take place or this could happen after activity or after the whole activity, whole lesson, or the whole teaching learning process. It will happen after that because it consider long-term impact from your learners. It will measure how long they understand the lesson you have with them. Are you teaching them just for a short time and they already forgot what you are teaching, or is it long term? So it is important, teachers, that you are teaching students for long term outcomes or long terms because it impacts their life. You know, it is said that if you are for a longer uh, if you focus on the long-term memory of the learners, you impact their lives already because they cannot forget you because it's long-term already. So it's important to also follow ups could happen if you are doing homeworks or assignments. So any after your teaching and learning process inside the classroom is important, but it is also important if the students are still learning them even they go anywhere. So if they are finished the whole day of class at home, can they still remember what you teach them? So that's a kind of evaluation that you can get after they present in or turn in their papers the next day. So you can evaluate yourself too if you're teaching well, because even after your class, they can still answer. So these are some of the points or times that we can input or inculcate evaluation with. So much more about this one. Let's proceed. How do we evaluate? So is there a process? Are there steps that we can use for us to evaluate? How do we do that? Here are some steps that I have researched. There are steps that we can follow. These are just guides for us to do evaluation. I am saying evaluation, not just evaluation in the teaching and learning process or evaluation that you do for um your teacher evaluation, but the whole aspect of evaluation. So there are steps of that. Following are the steps are a few steps involved in the process of evaluation. What are those? Okay, first we always do this in any plan we do or in any activity teachers are already it's a mindset already for teachers that we should define our objectives or identify our objectives, whether general or specific objectives. So we talk about general first. That means for the whole, we look at the whole picture. What can we get from our learners? Or what can we get from our participants in general. So this is the first step. It says that this process of identifying and defining educational objectives is a complex one. It is really complex because it's general. It encompasses a lot more. There is no simple or single procedure which suits all teachers. All teachers are like footprints or not footprints are like thumb marks. We are different. So you cannot compare yourself to other teachers because you are unique. So we all have our own procedures in teaching. We all have our own ways or approaches. Now, before you do that, you must have the general objective first. But that is not needed or that is not appropriate if you are doing lesson plans, teachers, because on our lesson plans, we are encouraged, not encouraged, we ought to do specific objectives. Okay, so that's for the second step. If you are planning to do a lesson plan, daily lesson plans, weekly lesson plans, you must do it through specific objectives. You define specific objectives. These specific objectives will provide direction to the teaching and learning process. It's like it's like the end. You are looking at the end by starting it. So not only that, it will also be useful in the planning and organizing the learning activities, and also in planning and organizing evaluation procedures too. So we have general objectives. If we need that, we need to do specific objectives too. The third is that we should select teaching points. What are teaching points? These are your activities, the the procedure you have in the teaching process. What are your methods? What are your styles, approaches? How do you do it? What are your instructions? So this is present. We should also have that in our evaluation. It's the third step in evaluation. It's to evaluate um what kind of methods or approaches that you should do in the teaching, and it can be realized or what should be realized once the objectives are set up. You already have your specific objectives. The next step is to decide the content. So what are inside your lesson? What are the things learners need to know. So that's for your selecting of points. Next is planning for suitable learning activities. Oh, I misunderstood. For the third step, I'm very sorry, is my bad. The third step is for the content of your lesson. So, what subject matter you are teaching for your lesson? I'm sorry, that's for the third one. It's how you select the subject matter or the topic that you will be teaching. So, you should also be crucial, you should also be selective in teaching the contents to your learners. So, that's for the third step. The activities now, the methods, this is now for the fourth step. After you evaluate the subject matter or the topic that you will be teaching, you will now plan for your learning activities. So the learning activity starts here. I'm so sorry. So it's the fourth step. The teacher will have to plan the learning activities to be provided to the pupils. At the same time, bear the two things in mind if you are looking or selecting or evaluating learning activities. It should be coincide with your objectives or and specific objectives, also with the teaching points or your subject matter. So they should be cohesive. So that's for the learning activities. The fifth step for evaluation is evaluating. So as what I have said, you also evaluate evaluation. You assess, you evaluate assessment. It's the fifth step. It's the teacher observes and measures the changes in the behavior of his of her pupils through testing. So we know evaluation already. It's in a way of testing, assessing if learners understood. We have a lot of kinds of assessments or evaluation. We can do it through essays, multiple choices, enumerations, tests, quizzes, even reflections. We do that. These are kinds of evaluation, but these are a lot, but these are used only for their corresponding reason. You cannot do an essay if you want learners to learn the steps, or you cannot do reflections if you want your learners to learn 1 plus 1. You cannot do essay with that. So they should be used correspondingly. So that's evaluating. Again, we should be more critical with our evaluation. Don't just use any kinds of evaluations or assessments. Every assessment that you do, we should evaluate also your evaluations. So that's evaluating. And oh, I'm sorry. The fifth step I got here, or the sixth step I got here is that it's using the results as feedback. So after evaluation, look at the results of the participants or the learners. Through this is not really the last one, or this is the last one, but not the least. Important step. It's an important step in evaluation process. It's the use of the results as your feedback. If the teacher, after testing his pupils, finds that the objectives have not been realized to a great extent, he will use the results in reconsidering the objectives and in organizing the learning activities. So, if you did not get your desired objectives, you did not get you did not target the learning outcomes. So then that's how you evaluate. Are you really doing your best as teacher? Are you really doing good as teacher because you are doing learning outcomes or objectives, but it doesn't align with the result? So evaluate that too. So these are some of the steps that we can do in evaluation or during our teaching and learning process. So much more about that one. We will now proceed to the next topic. So we know evaluation already. Now this time let's try to know what are the types of evaluation that we do in education. Let me tell you, there are a lot of evaluations. Some of them I have already discussed slightly a while ago, but let's learn deeper about them. First, we've got an example of evaluation is placement evaluation. We also have formative evaluation. We also have diagnostic evaluation and summative evaluation. You know what? These are just some. There are a lot of evaluation that we can do as teachers, but I will just tell you some of them, only four of them to be exact. So let's start with placement evaluation. What is placement evaluation? Okay, it is said that placement evaluation is used to place students according to prior achievement or personal characteristics at the most appropriate point in an instructional sequence, in a unique instructional strategy, or with a suitable teacher. So it means as simple as placing to what level they are. Like, for example, we in the Department of Education, we have our GST for all teachers who are reading specialists here. We have GST. It's when we measure how well our students can read. It's a program in the Department of Education that we test students, we evaluate the reading skill of the students. So if we find the results of that test, we will know what level of reading is the student. Is he on the kinder level of reading, the grade 1 level of reading, grade 2 level, grade 3 level of reading? So we place their levels to how much or how well they read, or how well they are in reading. So it's like placement where of what you can do. I think it is also um, the same with the alternative learning system or the ALS. After students or out of school youth finish alternative learning system, they are placed already in the elementary level, or maybe in a high school level, or maybe in a senior high level. So they are put there. So it's a kind of placement evaluation. And another program that the Department of Education did is that, or promulgated, is that the PEPT program, or the Philippine Educational Placement Test. It is an exam given by the Department of Education through the Bureau of Education and Assessment. It is to see if homeschooled children, those children who are studying at home, or the out of school youth, have the skills that they need to enter formal schooling at a certain level. So DepEd do this to put students on the right place, on the right level that they want to, especially if they are out of youth. If their level of education is only for the grade 5 level, they don't put that. directly to the high school. They put them in the grade 5 level. So it's leveling. So that's placement. So I think it's really self-explanatory already. So that's the gist for placement evaluation and a lot more about placement evaluation. So that's one example. How about the other evaluation? It's called formative evaluation. Formative evaluation or an assessment occurs during the learning process. It allows teachers and students to pivot their strategies. They can change their strategy or they can alter their strategies or methods of teaching with formative evaluation because it identifies what areas needs to be improved. It also gives opportunities for the students to implement feedbacks. So a formative evaluation is like it's a direct assessment of if the learners understand the teaching and learning process. Examples are tests, quizzes, or any after lesson assessments. So that's formative. After every classes we also have we really always have quizzes or tests. So that's an example of formative evaluation within the day of teaching. So we have teaching, we also have evaluation during teaching. If the students are there, they commit mistakes, you can directly evaluate them or assess them. If they are doing bad in in the teaching learning process, you can directly tell them, evaluate them. And also, you can modify your methods, change your methods, alter your methods with a formative evaluation, and you can identify errors of yourself as teacher during formative evaluation or errors of your students. Okay, another kind of evaluation is the diagnostic evaluation. If diagnostics in clinical term means knowing what is your body weakness or what illness or disease you have. We have diagnosis of that. In education also we have diagnostic, but not in the health. It's diagnostic or diagnosing the weaknesses of our learners. In simple terms, diagnostic evaluation means to diagnose or discover the student's difficulties while they are learning and then assess the problem accurately. Okay? Assess them accurately. Do the right assessment for them. A diagnostic test is performed to disclose weaknesses and strengths to themselves. Also, this evaluation helps the students in knowing their personality, their weak points. So it's very important for students to know on the points that they are good at and the points that they need improvement at. So we use diagnostic evaluation for that, for them to know the things that they are weak at and they're strong and need to be developed. So it's like assessing them, helping them assess themselves. Also, I think we need that too as teachers. We need diagnostic evaluations too. So that's another kind of evaluation. Another example of evaluation is the summative evaluation. So it's very usual in the teaching process that we always have summative evaluation. Now, what is summative evaluation? So it occurs at the end of the learning process, provides it's like the formative, right? It's the same with the formative at the end of any learning process, but what's the difference between the two? Let's understand them more. Summative evaluation provides a final evaluation of concept knowledge. It develops the high stakes testing that often involves ranking of students. So this is the time that we do our examinations. So the whole quarter, like for example, in a quarter one, the whole scope, the whole trend of your learning process or progress, the learning activities that you have, or all the topics that you have in the whole quarter, you will shorten that into one examination. That's what we call a summative evaluation. So in a school year, I think there are 4 quarters. So I think there are 4 evaluation or 4 summative evaluation in a school year. So usually even after the fourth quarter of the school year, we also already know who are the honor rolls because we know already who got high school or who got the highest throughout the whole year. So that's what we call the summative evaluation. So it's with longer time span. Okay, the longer topics, wider range of topics. That's summative evaluation. That's those are some of examples of the types of evaluation that I have research. They are the placement evaluation, this from easy to hard, progressive test to position the learner, what level they are, and also the formative evaluation. It monitors the progress during the class. The diagnostic also, it's an evaluation at the start to identify previous knowledge, learning disabilities or weaknesses of the students. And also we have the summative, it's the evaluation at the end to grade mastery of content and overall understanding and skills. So these are just 4 examples of types of evaluation, but there are a lot more. I just cite 4. Okay, so that's all I think for my report. Daghang salamat. Dalaygon ang tanan. And see you if we see each other. Thank you so much.